Hello, 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 lovely people. Hello, everybody. Super happy to be here. Kubefirst live stream. It's a beautiful day. Everybody's happy. We're gonna have an awesome time together. So my name is Frederick Harper. I just joined Kubefirst as a principal developer advocate. And yeah, thank you. You can continue to upload. It's a beautiful time, and super excited to be here really with you. So yeah, let's jump right into. But before that, I was just talking about myself, but like let's introduce ourselves. So Jared and John, J and J, who are you?
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, so I'm John. I'm one of the co-founders of the Kubefirst project. Here with my buddy Jared. I'm from the Washington D.C. area, and we've been working on the Kubefirst project for years together, and just recently joined KubeShop to build a team around it and see the rest of the vision through. Great to have you guys here today. Jared, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hey, everyone. I'm Jared Edwards, the other co-founder of Kubefirst. Been working on Kubefirst with John for years, like you mentioned. Fred?
Awesome. So yeah, let's get started. So today we have like a pretty awesome agenda for you. We're going to start with a live demo that Jared will demo you how the new local feature can really help you to use Kubefirst, test the application, and make some magic with your Kubernetes clusters. And after that, we're going to have John. John's going to explain you a little more, introduce you to Kubefirst. So if you are new to this cool, awesome open source project, John's gonna spill all the beans and let you know like everything you need to know about the project. After that, we're gonna go back to Jared. We will continue to give you more information about the local features and share some of the like cool stuff and fixes that we had in the latest release 1.10. And we're going to talk to you about what's next in the roadmap. So during that time, if you have any question, comment, insult, please write them in the comment section of the stream. Either if you watch it on YouTube, if you watch it on LinkedIn, add your comments. And if you don't want to share those publicly, I tell you there is a place where you can ask all your questions, give all your comments and your feedback. This is our Slack community. You can go there. We have a helping ends channels where you can, again, ask any question, but if you don't want to ask them publicly, if you have private information to share, you can ping me, direct message me on Slack. I'm Fred on Slack, and I will do everything I can to help you be successful using Kubefirst. So on that note, I will let Jared start with what we all like to do, play with code and in the terminal.
All right. Thank you, Fred. All right, so I already have the Kubefirst CLI installed, but I am going to go ahead and run the brew upgrade command to make sure I have the latest version. The latest version is 1.10.9. You can see that I do have that, but if we run a version command, we can verify that's what I'm running. So to get the Kubefirst CLI going with the local experience, we just have to run kubefirst local. And after we do that, we're going to be prompted here with this little GitHub code, and we're going to get a device login. Let me pull that down into this window. We're going to paste that code in here, and basically we're going to be authorizing Kubefirst to create repositories in your personal GitHub and be able to run some actions and a couple of other things to allow our entire system to be bootstrapped. So now that this is underway here, I'm going to just go ahead and pull up these logs in a separate terminal. And Fred, we can kick it back over to you, or to John, I guess, actually.
Yeah, so we're just going to give it a little bit of time to, get the vapor on and make it work. So John, it's on to you to tell us what the heck is Kubefirst? Like how can I use that and how useful it is? And because any live stream cannot be a real successful live stream without having at least one person on mute, John is the first one to be on mute while we're talking.
So, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. No, thank you, Fred. So yeah, we can't really talk about what Kubefirst is without talking about Kubernetes itself. So Kubernetes is a container orchestration engine that has sort of won the container orchestration battle. It provides a really straightforward set of mechanisms that are all declarative and based in YAML, so that you can solve all of the problems of modern containerized orchestration at scale in a straightforward way. And it's produced this enormously popular community of both open source and non-open source users and engineers that see running software in a uniform way with a uniform vision. And it's done such a good job attracting that community, that this CNCF landscape has amassed an enormous amount of cloud native tools. Vendors have basically spent the last 5 years or more even making sure that their software runs easily and effectively and can be installed easily to run on Kubernetes. So as a result, when there's companies that are or engineers that are looking into Kubernetes for the first time, Kubernetes itself, you hear it all the time that Kubernetes is hard to adopt, takes a long time to adopt, there's a huge learning curve. It's not really true. Kubernetes is actually pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. You'll have to learn some new terms and some new techniques. Kubernetes is easy. The hard part is tackling this enormity of optionality on the CNCF landscape, which is a good problem to have. And when you already have a GitOps, Kubernetes ecosystem, adding another cloud native tool couldn't be any easier. But when you're getting started from scratch, it's a lot to take on because you have to learn about all these different tools and which ones work well together and how to configure them to work with each other. You'll make mistakes. You'll need to establish new patterns, etc. So what we've done with Kubefirst is tried to solve that problem of starting Kubernetes from scratch. So what Kubefirst is it's a command line interface. You can brew install it. It's really easy to get started with. And you can run a single command against a mostly empty cloud. We do need you to have a domain in your cloud ecosystem. And then you can have a fully operational, fully automated platform in 30 minutes or less that leverages all of some of the most popular CNCF and open source tools that are available for cloud native platform building. And most companies end up building platforms that are very similar to the one that Kubefirst provides for you. But we are able to install it into your cloud in 30 minutes and you're on your way. So a quick, simple install. And then you have a bunch of tools that are all working together for free. All the tools that are on the platform are the open source free tier version of all the tools. You'll have infrastructure as code. You'll have application management and delivery, Kubernetes asset inventory, secrets management, you name it. It's on the platform. It's got great patterns. So you can learn some of these complex technologies and or just get started faster on a new project with Kubefirst. We have some principles that we adhere to protect you from stories like this, frankly. You hear about people putting together platforms all the time, but they put you in a box and they talk about open source tools, but you can't use them. They're going to use them. And they build these high walls and there's a ceiling in terms of how you can use these tools. And we do not do that. We don't wrap these open source tools. We just enable fast provisioning and fast integration of these tools with each other for you, but you're not handcuffed to the tools that we select. You're able to take any of our opinions, any of our technologies that we've put on the default version of our platform, and you can literally remove them by just pull requesting to your brand new GitOps Git repository, the removal of our tool and the addition of your tool. And then you have the Kubefirst platform with some changes, and you can just kind of take our platform and go any direction that you want with it. And we hope that it's very valuable to the community. We have some goals with the Kubefirst platform as well. We want to make sure that we're providing a good learning space for tough technologies. Some of the best CNCF tools that are available are a little hard to come up to speed on. GitOps itself, the discipline, HashiCorp Vault is a little challenging. Kubernetes itself is itself a technology that requires a little bit of coming up to speed, and having good patterns and practices around these complicated tools is the best way to learn how they work together. So we want to be treating our Kubernetes clusters as cattle and not pets. We're tired of the story that people are making upgrades to Kubernetes clusters in place, updating their secrets engines, updating their ingress controllers live. Like it's crazy to be managing Kubernetes as if it was 5 years ago on VMs or whatever. So we're trying to solve that problem in our future roadmap. We're going to be tackling cluster management, making sure that we can treat Kubernetes clusters as just some hardware that can run some great software. So
and John, what really impressed me about the platform is that we're using Git extensively to do mostly everything. And as a developer, I already use Git. I already use it day to day for my code. So it's like using a tool that I already use. And I don't know, I don't want to impose anything to anyone, but I'm a huge fan of infrastructure as a code. So, by using Git, by having all the history, the Git log, and using the other tools we use like Terraform, it really helps me to, having being able to always deploy the same kind of experience in my Kubernetes cluster. And what you said, it's open source. So if there is something as a user that I don't like, hey, I can fix things, I can add things, I can do a PR, I can fork it, and do the changes that I need for my own use case. So I may be biased, but I really like what we're doing.
No, I appreciate you saying so. Yeah, the GitOps repository and having all your infrastructure as code and all of your application configurations all in a single centralized Git repository, where all you need to do is protect that main branch because it's driving everything, is an incredible way to run your infrastructure. And Jared will show a little bit of that in a few minutes here. So the 1.10 release was this one was a story. So we started the Kubefirst local story in advance of KubeCon North America. We really wanted to be able to provide an easy way to check out Kubefirst, an easy way to iterate on platform provisioning. And we thought that we had it knocked out of the park. We finished a release literally at 2:00 in the morning before the KubeCon doors opened to us. And then we told everybody that we could talk to, Kubefirst local, you got to check it out, check it out, check it out. And we heard some rumors here and there that there might have been some issues coming out of the gate. We regret that our 1.10.0 was not very stable. We just last night, true to form, at 2:00 in the morning, right before a live stream, got 1.10.9 out the door, which is a very, very stable version of Kubefirst local. We think that it is the MVP that we were after. We have a 1.11 release on the horizon. We'll talk about that for a second, that makes additional improvements to the Kubefirst local story. But basically what we're trying to do with Kubefirst local is we want you to be able to iterate quickly on your platform. We want you to be able to practice infrastructure as change locally. Infrastructure as code changes locally, and demonstrate GitOps application delivery and make changes to your CI/CD ecosystem without impacting your cloud. So that's why we built Kubefirst local. It's got some additional stories, and there are people in the community that are using it in some interesting ways. It's going to be fun to see how it kind of blossoms. In order to get it working, we had to introduce 4 new technologies to the stack. We obviously don't have EKS clusters at our disposal on your local host. So we're leveraging K3D for that local Kubernetes cluster. K3D is just a wrapper around K3S, which is a little more commonly known, but it runs entirely in Docker. It doesn't require you to have, BusyBox or whatever, to manage the Kubernetes nodes on your local. We introduced Minio as a mechanism to emulate our S3 backends. So Terraform state generally goes to S3. The chart museum implementation that we have, the Helm charts that are stored in S3. So all those spots where we have S3 typically in our cloud install, we're using Minio locally in order to emulate that S3 interactivity. ngrok is brand new to the platform. We needed a way to invoke automated Terraform plans and applies when changes happen in your GitOps repository. So we're leveraging ngrok to establish a reverse tunnel so that when changes are made to Terraform, they automatically run in your local cluster and report back to your GitHub pull request with the results of that plan and apply. And we're using GitHub in a new way as well. We're using it for container OCI storage. Typically, we keep our OCI images in Amazon ECR, but with no cloud requirement on Kubefirst Local, we decided to leverage GitHub for container storage. What you need in order to run Kubefirst Local is very straightforward. You need the Kubefirst CLI. You can just brew install kubefirst/tools/kubefirst, and you'll have the latest version of the Kubefirst CLI. If you already have one, make sure that you brew upgrade. And you also do need a GitHub user. We didn't want to put GitLab in your K3D cluster because we were worried about laptop performance requirements. And so we are leveraging only GitHub for the Kubefirst local story right now. And therefore you need just a personal GitHub. They're free to set up, easy to create. So with that, let's switch over to my buddy Jared, who's going to show us some of the results of the Kubefirst local. I trust that Kubefirst local created successfully.
Yeah, it did. So it took just over 5 minutes. We were seeing just under 5 minutes yesterday, but that's all right. So we get presented with this screen here, which is going to be helpful to us for a few values. But this console, our Kubefirst console, also automatically opened up in the browser so that I can see the tools that are available to me here. So to get started, I'm going to jump over to my personal GitHub and the GitOps repository that was just created and placed there. From here, we're going to explore a few of these directories. One being the registry. The registry is the entry point for any Kubernetes resources to get into your cluster. Argo CD is automatically registered with this folder. So any YAML resources that you put here, that can be, if you're using an Argo CD application kind, it could be a Helm chart, could be a customized deployment, could just be some raw YAML manifests that you have laying around that you want to be managed in a better way than kubectl applying to your cluster. We'll go through a quick demonstration of that at the end, but just to make sure that we all know that this registry is how anything gets into your cluster.
Hey, Jared, would you mind, with that view up of the registry folder, would you also bring up the Argo CD representation of that same registry?
Yeah, so don't mind the certificate error. That's an Argo CD thing that we just have to deal with for a moment. We conveniently output the password that's the initial admin password for your Argo CD instance. In that terminal, you can also go to the secret in the Argo CD namespace to grab that value if that's more convenient for you. But we drop that in, log in with the admin user, and here we are. So all these applications are already up and healthy, but the view that John was after here is this registry application. And I'll just do a quick side-by-side, maybe not. Yeah, there it goes. You can largely see that if I can squeeze all these in here, we have our actions runner controller, Argo, CWFT, Atlantis, Cert Manager, down the list there. Each of those files represents one of these applications that's running in cluster.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the GitOps repo and take a look at maybe the Atlantis YAML next.
Sure. So Atlantis is crucial for our stack. We use it to automate all of our Terraform infrastructure as code. Atlantis is a really great tool that we've been using for a while. Basically, you get to register these entry points that Atlantis is responsible for watching. The ones that we care about are going to be the users vault and the GitHub ones for the demonstration today. And if we were to go into the Terraform directory now, you'll see that we have the GitHub users and vault folders that are those exact folders that have that house the Terraform that Atlantis is responsible for managing.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and make a change to the Terraform and show folks what automated infrastructure as code looks like when you're running on your local host, which is a crazy sentence.
Sure. So I'm going to clone this repo locally because there's going to be a few changes that are easier to do here than in the UI of GitHub. So this is the new GitOps repository that's in my personal GitHub account. Make this a little bit bigger for everyone and maybe even increase the font size there. So we'll start with those changes to Terraform. I'm actually just going to make some white space changes here. That's good enough, but that's a good enough change in a Terraform file for Atlantis to recognize that something has changed and that it should rerun a plan. And when we get up to this GitHub one, we'll actually go ahead and create a new repository as well, just so we can see Atlantis in action a little bit. This is going to be called demo repo, not TPO, and fix that naming convention because it'll drive me crazy. And we're just going to call this a demo repo. Nothing else needs to change here. We have this nice Terraform module that kind of wraps this repository. It can also do some other things like create an ECR repository if it was going to be a microservice that's deployed to your infrastructure and might need to be able to publish containers immediately. But we'll gloss over that detail for this. But the metaphor applications that we jump into later will have that change made. So if we go back to my terminal, I'm going to check out a branch because Atlantis only responds to pull requests. So we're going to do an Atlantis check branch. We're going to add these 3 files that we changed and not that commit message. We are going to test trigger Atlantis to check the entry points. And we are going to push that up to my personal Jared Edwards GitOps and open the pull request.
Now, Jared, at this point, can you describe to us technically what
we have a lock on Atlantis, which is odd, but we're going to jump over to the Atlantis UI real quick. If I go back to the Kubefirst console and let's just discard these plans. This was already merged, which is interesting, but always on a live demo, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a live demo without a wrinkle here and there. Just to sort of describe to the group, the provisioning process for Kubefirst Local. We basically take this GitOps template repository that's open source at the Kubefirst GitHub org. We pull that down. We hydrate it for the local install that you're doing, and then we deliver it to your private personal GitHub so that that's the source of truth for all of your infrastructure and for all of your GitOps configurations of your local K3D cluster. When we do that initial push of the GitOps repository, we're pushing a whole bunch of stuff with a whole bunch of automation, and all that automation has to sort of flesh itself out just the right way. Every once in a while, we find a little bit of a rough edge where, Atlantis, according to our local, had fully propagated and was ready. But according to GitHub, it wasn't yet propagated. So you have to run a thing every once in a while after a very initial install. So.
Yeah, and just to describe that a little bit more, so the lock that was on that was actually this closed pull request that was already Atlantis applied and planned. There were no additional changes that needed to be pulled into my branch. I just reran the Atlantis plan comment on my pull request, which is Atlantis did immediately when I opened that pull request with no other changes. We can see here that we now have the GitHub users and vault entry points that are planned. We can see the GitHub is going to create one resource. It's a new Git repository. And then we can see that users has one change to a data JSON object, which is no impact to anything. And then we have the vault, which has no changes to your infrastructure. So the next thing I'll do to actually apply this change is run Atlantis apply as a comment on this pull request. And that's going to send that webhook from my Git repo back to Atlantis over ngrok and into my local K3D cluster that's running Atlantis. And it's going to go ahead and make these infrastructure changes for me. And looks like that was successful. So Atlantis is going to automatically merge the pull request. It's going to close the branch and clean it up for me. Now, if I go back to my GitHub and go to my repositories, maybe, there it goes. You can see that just 30 seconds ago, we got this new repo added to my personal GitHub. So now I can add new applications, I can extend it. The ones that we'll be looking at here in just a moment are the metaphor applications. These 3 were added, as you can see, just 6 minutes ago when the installation finished of Kubefirst local, but we'll get there in just 1 second.
That's awesome. So that's a great example of how automated infrastructure as code works. The infrastructure as code that we created happened to be a GitHub repo. It could have been anything. Anything that has a Terraform provider can be added to the Terraform folder and then mapped through the Atlantis YAML to be automated and work the same way. So when you're doing cluster provisioning with any regularity, because you're practicing your techniques or you're introducing new changes or whatever, it can be nice to have the same tools available to you on your local host for iterating on your platform. We've found, at least. So certainly a neat tool to have in your bag of tricks.
All right. Next thing we were going to do real quick is we were going to add a new application to the Kubefirst stack through GitOps, the same way that you can add any tool to the result of one of our Kubefirst platforms. This one's going to be a real straightforward app. We're just going to throw the Kubernetes dashboard in there to show you how that works. There's patterns already on the platform that you receive in your GitOps repository that would show you how to do more complex applications that might have requirements like secrets. Those secrets would still be sourced from HashiCorp Vault, and then using the external secrets operator to pull those into your cluster and make them available to the applications. But for the sake of this nice live stream for the 1.10 release, we're just going to do a simple one. So if I go back to my code editor here of my local GitOps repository, and we're going to make this change in the registry the same way that we were describing and showing that side-by-side of what it looks like to see how something's added to the cluster and what is actually managed by Argo CD. So if I save this file, which looks like it's not saving, there it goes, and close it, I can see that I now have on my branch. And actually, I'm going to just check out main and push this directly to main, make sure. I know it's not best practice, but for a live stream, I think we'll be okay here. So
no PR, Jared. What are you thinking about?
Well, it's an ephemeral GitHub and cloud on my local host. That's okay. Let's get rid of that commit message and say add Kubernetes dashboard to registry. We're now going to push that directly to the main branch of my personal GitOps repo, and we'll go visit that in the browser. So in the registry here, we now have that Kubernetes dashboard YAML that I just added on my local host. This will be a perfect time to go over to the Argo CD UI. Once we get over in the Argo CD UI, the registry is Argo CD naturally defaults to a 3-minute poll before it's going to make any changes. I'm going to expedite that here, and you're going to see a tile jump in right under Kubefirst components. Instead of waiting that extra 2 minutes on camera, just quietly twiddling thumbs, we'll hit refresh. We see the Kubernetes dashboard application was just added to Argo CD. Argo CD woke up and is now running through the list of sync waves that we have pre-established for you to get your infrastructure up and running. And it looks like the sync was successful. So now we're going to drop into the Kubernetes dashboard. This dashboard application is brand new. You can see it's just a few seconds old here. So let's go take a look at that in the browser and what we get in the UI there. We are running Kubernetes 1.24 here. So there's a slight change to my demo flow. So forgive me for grabbing this token manually really quick. But then we're going to open a port forward to the service. Ooh. Don't worry about that. Just need to fix my namespace context there. And now we are starting a local port forward on my laptop to that new Kubernetes service that's running in cluster on my laptop. So if we go to HTTPS localhost 9999, we get that same certificate issued. Feel free to proceed. That's okay. I'm going to drop that token that I just got in my terminal in the authentication there, and then I can go see all namespaces, and you can see that this dashboard's up and running. We just added it to this brand new stack that has never seen it before. It was just a matter of minutes to be able to add that application YAML that Argo CD understands. We pointed it at a Helm chart. We gave it a revision for that Helm chart and told it which Helm chart from that URL to install. And this is the result of that.
Yeah, and if we could just stop for a second there, like this is not just a Kubefirst local feature. This is how our cloud platform works and why our application ecosystem is so extensible to you. Our architecture is set up so that we are pulling from our GitOps template repository. We're hydrating it with your opinions that you wanted for your cloud or for your cluster. We're provisioning for you your own GitOps repository that's derived from that GitOps template repository. But that GitOps repository that you have is yours to own, to keep forever. And we have nothing to do with it. It's just flat YAML that incorporates the configurations for a whole bunch of infrastructure as code and application delivery for a whole bunch of common applications. So if you look at our platform and you think, well, you know, great platform, but we're a New Relic shop and we really we need New Relic agents in our cluster. Yeah, of course you do. Add it to the GitOps repository registry and you'll have New Relic on top of the Kubefirst platform. That story extends to literally anything that's cloud native at all. So I just want to make sure that was super clear. I think the addition of the dashboard demonstrates how easy it is to add an application to the Kubefirst platform, but use your imaginations in terms of what could be added on top of the Kubefirst platform. It could be another Ingress controller. It could be a different secrets manager. It could be a different CI tool. It could be literally anything that you want for your platform. You just get to start with something that's already working and automated and auditable that was good secrets management and everything else. So,
and just to add a little bit of a challenge there, if you are using the Kubefirst platform and you're struggling to onboard an application, we would love for you to jump in the community Slack. We will absolutely help you get the things that you need up and to get that application installed on the platform, up and running the same way that the rest of the platform operates. We've installed dozens and dozens of tools on this platform over the years, so we have quite a bit of experience there and are happy to help anyone that's having any troubles.
Yeah, great call out. Let's switch gears to Metaphor.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to my personal GitHub here through the link in the Kubefirst console. And this is the Metaphor application. This one also was just added to my personal GitHub, as we showed a few minutes ago. There are a few important things to call out here. So the actions. What's really neat about our Kubefirst local story is that we actually use self-hosted GitHub runners for all of your CI jobs that run. So this publish, development, staging, and release pipelines that all ran, we're all running on self-hosted GitHub runners in my local K3D cluster, which is really neat. So we install the actions runner controller, and then we set a deployment of GitHub action runners in cluster that are constantly polling GitHub and getting ready to pick up any jobs that might come up through these new application repositories. So this is the Metaphor application. I'm going to go ahead and visit the Metaphor front-end application. And this is pretty much the same thing. This is a React app. We can go ahead and jump to the URL here after we kick off a pipeline for Metaphor Golang, which is the third microservice that we deliver to your brand new GitHub repos or GitHub user space. I don't know how to phrase that exactly, but same thing. You'll see that all these jobs have the same steps. They're going to publish, which is going to build a container, push it to that GitHub registry, and then it's also going to push a new Helm chart release candidate that's going to go to a local chart museum that's running in cluster, backed by that Minio storage John was explaining earlier in the live stream as well.
Right on. Can we explore that a little bit in the Metaphor Go repo? Can you show us like the GitHub the .github directory and the rules for like why it's kicking off jobs and what it's kicking off?
Yeah. So let's start with the .github directory. So we actually still install Argo workflows with each of our platforms. It's a nice way for us to have a consistent experience across Git providers so far. All that we do with this GitHub action is actually just invoke an Argo workflow. What this allows us to do is have a consistent environment between GitHub and GitLab. We're just invoking Argo workflows through the native CI tool that's offered by the Git provider. And then all of these jobs kick off in Argo workflows. So if I jump back into my Kubefirst console real quick and visit the Argo workflows link, don't mind these nice advertisements there. Argo workflows is great. And I have an undefined namespace for some reason, which isn't helping me. Continue. There it is. All right. So these are all the jobs that have already run from the GitHub runners in my local K3D cluster. We're looking at Metaphor Go. So let's go ahead and start with the Metaphor Go publish. The really neat feature of having Argo workflows wired into the GitHub actions is if I go to my actions real quick, and I drop into that publish step, which I was trying to demonstrate on the Argo workflows UI. You get this really nice output, and hopefully after I get past this yellow, you see the green output there. Each of those is one of these steps in the CI process that is its own container image and gives you tight control over what secrets are exposed to which containers executing the individual steps of your CI workflows. We can go, oops, that was the wrong click there. To Metaphor Go, I guess, John, kick off a pipeline, make a change to the README real quick, just so that's running.
Let's do that.
So let's jump in here. Just to emulate what it would be like if you were actually developing against this application. I'm just going to make a white space change. I almost typed white space there, but that should go here. And this is the emulating a pull request against this repository. As soon as that change hits the main branch, we can go back to our actions tab and see that GitHub action is already invoking. It's going to take a few seconds to build a container that's going to invoke that Argo submission, but we'll shortly see that pop up in this workflows UI over here as the, oh, there it goes now, as the new release that's going to be built for Metaphor Go.
Right on. Yeah. And, you know, we, when we build these Argo workflows, when we install Kubefirst to your cluster, we're installing it with some CWFTs, which are cluster workflow templates, that do some common tasks that you'll need to do one way or another, to do things like build a container, build a Helm chart, publish a Helm chart, and then do GitOps delivery of an applications chart to a development staging production environment without doing like, you know, Helm install commands or kubectl apply commands. It's all GitOps delivered changes. So the CI is very simple. Basically, once you build and publish an OCI chart and container, you have in order to get that chart delivered to development staging production, all you have to do is change one small file in the GitOps repository and set that desired state that you want this version of the chart to be in development. And then Argo CD wakes up, recognizes there's a difference to be tended to, and reconciles that change to the Kubernetes cluster. You know, we have some opinionated CI techniques that you can borrow from, you can use, you can abandon, you can, you know, install Jenkins if you don't like Argo workflows. Don't do that. One way or another, we wanted to be able to showcase how GitOps application delivery works. And we're leveraging Argo workflows, like Jared was saying, for that really tight control. It's all Kubernetes native. So doing things like leveraging secrets in a specific, very tiny task of a CI job, so that you can limit the blast radius of what has access to those secrets. Those are very nice architectural details that are part of the Argo workflows. implementation that we're putting forward. So I think that's pretty much everything that we wanted to show today. Jared, anything else jump out that we want to cover?
Nope. I was just going to describe or show really quick, rather, that if you're wondering where those charts, those container images are actually published to, if you visit your personal GitHub and then you visit the packages tab, you can see that these are the containers hosted in the GitHub container registry. So if you have any questions about where those might be, just a nice call out to let you know where to look for those. You can see that they're updating pretty regularly here with the CI running. But I think that was the last detail I wanted to make sure and let people know they could find the containers there.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The thing though also is that it's available right now. So people just need to go like install Kubefirst and they can try it now on their own computer, and they don't need a lot of things to make it work. So go try it right now. Like leave the live stream and go try it. No, okay. Wait after the live stream, try it, and we want your feedback. So go on GitHub, install it, and once you try it, please let it know how it goes. Come to the Slack community, and we're going to be here to answer your questions and get your comment and see if you have any suggestion about the experience. So on that note, I think, Jared, do you have anything else you wanted to show?
No, I don't. I guess I'll just call out that. So at the end of this now, the thing that I'll run next is I'm actually going to just go ahead and kill that initial browser. Two things, actually, since we're here and folks are hopefully listening. If you end up losing this screen at the end of your Kubefirst local installation, you're going to lose all of the port forwards that make all of the URLs in the console available. If you just run kubefirst local connect, that command there is going to reestablish all those port forwards for you so that you don't have to manually figure out what the ports are that things are listening on and how you might access those services again. Just give that kubefirst local connect a run, and then these URLs are available to you. You can see that this is the Metaphor front end. It shows the Metaphor backend that's a Node.js application and the Go application. And then the other thing I was going to mention is that now that we're done with this demo, we're just... if I could type Kubefirst, that's a hard word today, apparently. We're just going to destroy this local cluster, and I'm going to get a new GitHub token to allow it to deprovision everything in my personal GitHub. I'm going to paste that code right back in there and authorize us to remove all that from my GitHub. And in about 2 minutes, that'll all be out of my GitHub like it was never there. The K3D cluster will be off my local machine as if it was never installed. And nice way to clean everything up, and then you can spin it right back up and have the same experience.
That's right. Yeah, rinse and repeat. Yeah, the one story that we keep hearing is developer environments for local complex Kubernetes application delivery. Like there's a common need to have a whole bunch of microservices running on a local host, and it seems like everybody's trying to create bespoke mechanisms to be able to do that for their individual organizations. We would love for Kubefirst Local to be the story of how you're getting your applications to run in a local environment, as well as all of the obvious advantages that we showed earlier today as well, with infrastructure as code and being able to iterate on GitOps and everything else. So.
And last call out, if you don't want to go through the code flow execution for getting the device login and stuff, you can just set this Kubefirst GitHub auth token environment variable to your GitHub personal access token. That'll sidestep the need to have to create an ephemeral token for us to leverage while doing these provisions.
That's right. Yeah. And if you do set that Kubefirst GitHub auth token manually, so that it's just exposed to the shell, you're able to control the access in a more fine-grained way than what you're allowed to do with the ephemeral implementation that was the only automated solution that GitHub supports so far. So if you need to keep that control really, really tight, creating an individual pat is a nice way to solve that problem.
All right, and we just finished the end of the destroy. If I go, I guess since we're here and it already wrapped up, I can go back to my personal GitHub, go to my repositories. You'll note that even that demo repo that we created after the fact, that was also cleaned up because everything's managed in infrastructure as code, like we were never here.
Yep. Well done. Well done.
That is great demo. Thanks, Jared. And you know what? 110 is only the beginning, so it's why now it's the time to John to tell you a little bit about what's next. What's the cool stuff we're coming with the next release?
Yeah, so 111 is the 110 release that we just showed you here was basically our MVP of the Kubefirst local experience. With 111, there are some niceties that we would like to add to the Kubefirst local story. You likely saw while Jared was demoing a whole bunch of browser certificate warnings about the site not being trusted. Details like that all going to be cleaned up. We're adding local DNS support so that we don't need port forwards in order to access the services that are in the cluster. You'll be able to just use a local DNS that sort of looks and feels a lot closer to the cloud platform that we've been provisioning for years. There will be local ingress support that leverages that local DNS, and all of the communication between your client and that Kubernetes cluster will all be HTTPS. So we're really trying to tighten down the Kubefirst local story so that it's a viable implementation for very lightweight Kubernetes ecosystems. Maybe you want to just have a Kubernetes cluster that runs on a single bare metal machine for some reason. Having the 111 version will further tighten the security on that and sort of give you the look and feel of the cloud platform that we have today, but on a single machine instance. We're also working with Civo on adding the Civo Cloud to the Kubefirst platform. Excuse me. And with that work, we're going to be more professionally putting together our GitOps directory structure to support a multi-cloud, multi-cluster ecosystem. So, excuse me, there's going to be a couple changes to the directory of that GitOps repo and sort of the way that the orchestration flows from our GitOps template to becoming your GitOps repository. And cluster management is going to be the big one. That's the one that we are tackling in Q1 2023. We want the ability to be able to provision from your new cluster additional clusters, a development, a staging, a production, a demo, be able to deliver the applications that we're delivering to your single cluster ecosystem today. We want to be able to deliver to a multi-cluster ecosystem by the end of Q1. And we're hoping to be able to tackle the nuances of traffic switching details and stuff like that so that we can start treating Kubernetes clusters as cattle like we want. And obviously, we're listening to our community. We've had a whole influx of new users. We're excited to hear those stories. And we are absolutely prioritizing the needs of our users on our platform. So please be vocal with any rough edges that you have, any needs that you have. Hop into our community workspace. Let us know that you have the need, and we will find a way to get it into our roadmap and implement it for our community users. So keep that feedback coming.
I could not have said it better. So thanks, John. Many things coming up. Super excited. Super exciting stuff coming on. One link to rule them all, Kubefirst.io. Please, you go there. You have access to the documentation. Everything you need to be successful with Kubefirst is on the documentation, docs.kubefirst.io. If you see something missing, if you think something is not super clear, can be improved, please either create an issue in the GitHub repo or let us know in the Slack community. So it was awesome to be with all of you. I didn't talk too much that time. I was just a pretty face, but you know what? I'm going to be there for the next live stream. I'm available on Slack. We're all available on Slack, but please come talk to me. Give me some feedback. Tell me about your experience. Think of me as the social, technical, approachable, friendly face of the company. I'm available on Twitter, LinkedIn, and as I said, on our Slack community. So Any last word from you, John, Jared?
Nah, I just wanted to say, Fred, that it's great having you in this role for the project. Obviously, it's going to be great for the community, and really want to express a warm welcome to the Kubefirst project to you. You've been great for us in just your first week here. Somehow already coming up to speed on the million things that we're doing and making impactful changes immediately. So. Welcome to Kubefirst, and we're looking forward to more live streams with you.
Thanks, Jared. Any something you cannot do something better than what John just said, but you can try.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I hope everyone has a happy holiday and gets a little bit of downtime. I know we all work too hard.
It is. Christmas is coming up. Hopefully, as Jared said, you're gonna have some time. And let me finish that live stream with really bad joke. So how many programmers does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
None. It's a hardware problem. So on that really bad jokes, again, have a lovely rest of the day, and let's connect on Slack.
Hope to see y'all there.
Yep.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
Bye.